There are moments in history that vanish as if they never occurred. Certain documents, voices, and testimonies are erased, hidden, or made to be forgotten by an invisible hand, evaporating like a dream under the morning sun. Yet reality often hides within these vanishing images. This event, linked to a never-before-released voice recording of one of the greatest minds in the history of science, is the echo of such a forgotten moment. Stephen Hawking. During a routine scan of the closed digital archives at Cambridge University, a group of researchers discovered an encrypted audio file. The file name was a random string of characters, but its metadata contained a chilling phrase: Hawking, beyond consciousness. Initially, researchers assumed it was a hoax or an AI-generated forgery. However, forensic audio analysis confirmed that the voice truly belonged to Stephen Hawking. Moreover, the recording dated back to the early 2000s, a period when Hawking rarely spoke of such matters in public. The recording captured a conversation between Hawking and an unidentified reporter whose voice was distorted, as if someone intentionally masked their identity. The first minutes concerned the beginning of the universe, the nature of time and gravity. But then came a question that would overturn the boundaries of science. Professor, if information is not destroyed in a black hole, can consciousness survive after death? A heavy silence hung in the air, broken only by the rhythmic sound of Hawking's breathing apparatus. Then, in a tone nearing a whisper, he spoke. "This is a matter I have never shared in the public square, but one I have contemplated deeply. A note to our seekers. If these revelations stir your soul, we invite you to favor this video and share your thoughts. Join our community at The Secret, sir, for these narratives whisper the mysteries not only of the past, but of the eternal future." In the recording, Hawking explained that the principle of information conservation applies not only to physical objects, but also to cognitive structures: memory, experience, perception, and emotion. He proposed that what religions call the soul is not an independent entity, but a pattern of information. This pattern is subject to the laws of nature and does not vanish even after death. According to Hawking, consciousness is not a local function of the brain. It is a quantum information field woven into the very fabric of the universe. When the body ceases its functions, this information does not perish. It merely changes form. As it is said in the mystic traditions, where the breath ends, truth begins. When the reporter asked for clarification, Hawking made a startling revelation. Consciousness continues, but in a way that transcends the material soul. It follows a law similar to how black holes transform information, rather than destroying it. He spoke of clandestine experiments conducted with a group of physicists and neuroscientists. Their goal was to investigate whether human consciousness leaves a measurable trace after death. The results were extraordinary. In 2 different subjects, after clinical brain death occurred, bursts of quantum activity were observed that could not be explained by standard medical models. The body had stopped, but the information was still there, echoing, sustaining its existence in another form. Hawking nodded his head as he spoke. Yes, memories, emotions, and perhaps fragments of personality are preserved as patterns capable of interacting with the environment. This sounded like the quantum consciousness theory, but Hawking went further. This was a scientific and spiritual answer to the oldest questions of human existence. The findings were supported by anomalies recorded by scientists monitoring the moment of death in laboratories. One study, which Hawking tentatively named the Cognitive Trace Program, sought to detect traces emitted from the brain post-mortem. Using advanced neurointerfaces and quantum magnetic sensors, researchers found that the quantum radiation observed after death was too powerful to be explained by tissue decay. These energy bursts whispered that something, perhaps a being, was still active. Hawking used a new term, the quantum echo. He suggested that personality could persist without a physical vessel. As researchers analyzed the digital structure of the audio, they found background encodings invisible to the human ear, digital locks placed to hide certain parts of the file. Yet the core message remained. Hawking warned, if this information is confirmed, philosophy, science, religion, and politics must be rewritten from scratch. Perhaps humanity is not yet ready. The metadata of the file pointed to a laboratory complex near Geneva, a subunit of CERN. Independent sources claim that Dr. Mark Euler, a physicist who worked with Hawking, led a project there in the early 2000s called the Cognitive Echo Project. Declassified documents from 2002 confirm these experiments. Report number 14 stated, quantum radiation continued for 4 minutes after heart and brain activity ceased. This phenomenon aligns with the cognitive trace hypothesis. This was no longer a mere assumption. It was a reality supported by experimental observation. But why was this kept secret? The answer is hauntingly simple. Dr. Mark Euler vanished in 2004 without a trace. The project was buried in classified archives, and the term cognitive echo never appeared in CERN reports again. However, the truth could not be reburied. Forensic analysis revealed a hidden message within the file. Consciousness is not a function, it is a path. This suggests that life after death is not just a theoretical possibility, but a journey. Dr. Lewis Harding, a quantum computing expert, hypothesized that if consciousness is an informational structure, it enters a quantum memory field after death. This soul is a pattern of information that can resonate with other neural networks. In other words, traces of past lives could remanifest in new individuals through resonance. Harding matched these quantum echoes with cases from the University of Virginia's archives, where children remembered details of past lives. In 13 cases, children's descriptions of scientific experiments and laboratory codes matched the secret Geneva projects perfectly. A child in California remembered test codes that existed only in declassified CERN documents. Harding concluded, if consciousness is transferred as quantum information, then reincarnation is the scientific term for this resonance. Hawking's recording, once thought to be distorted, provided the final key. Not all patterns are compatible. Only those who carry progress continue, others are erased. This is the natural selection of consciousness. This means that consciousness undergoes an evolutionary process. Every individual is a potential carrier, but only those who serve the advancement of the universe continue the journey. The soul is defined not just by faith, but by divine information. In the end, consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but a structure in the fundamental architecture of the universe. We do not die, we transform. Just as light changes direction when passing through glass, our consciousness changes its form. Perhaps that unidentifiable feeling within you, the déjà vu, the face you recognize but have never met, is the echo itself. We are all echoes, vibrations sent from a consciousness beyond time. Dr. Harding eventually received an anonymous message. Hawking knew more than you think. This is not the end, it is the beginning. Included was a file titled The Protocol of Conscious Evolution. Hawking's own handwriting read, consciousness is not a product of the brain, it is the fundamental structure of reality. We do not die, we transform. This is no longer a story, it is a remembrance still beating within us all.